So, what I can't remember, when you decided to perform this Mass, it was something that came also from the Alameda Foundation and David Byrne.
Yes, and it was especially the musicologist Fabrice Fitch,
right,
who has made a study of this Mass and feels quite closely related to it.
Mm-hmm.
And Fabrice Fitch had the feeling that groups could go further in trying to solve the puzzle of this piece.
Mm-hmm.
And we took on the challenge of trying to solve the puzzle together with him. Because the thing about this Mass is it has a very complicated system of working out the tempo of the Mass. How fast and slow the different movements should go. Especially because of this tenor part. What's the famous thing that was said about it? The Rob Lechman called it...
the sphynx.
The sphynx, right. Yeah.
It's so enigmatic.
Enigmatic, refuses to... Well, it's the longest Mass, right? In the whole Renaissance repertoire.
It's roughly double the length of a normal Mass
right.
at a time.
Right, it's about an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, you wonder whether it was actually performed in a Mass or if he wrote it as a kind of a musical statement, because he did write it pretty much at the end of his life, right?
Yeah, although I don't think he knew that when he
No,
wrote it.
that's true. But it turns out to be kind of a musical testament, right?
Sure.
And it's really full of all the kind of things that he does so often in his music, right?
Yeah. In some ways, it's like a catalogue of his techniques. In this case, you have the melody that he chose as the structure of the Mass, which is a very sweet Marian song.
Right, beautiful song.
Beautiful song. And what he does, for example, here, he just takes a little bit of it and he has it repeated twice.
Okay.
And then the last bit one time. And sometimes, I don't know if I can find an example of that, but the repetition, each time with a different mensuration, so a different time signature, can be 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
For only sometimes 5 or 6 notes.
Right.
So segmentations in this case means that this little bit of the Marian song is used and repeated while the other singers go on with their counterpoint in a completely different world, usually.
Yeah. And of course, what's incredibly cool about the way we perform, that is from these original sources, is that the tenor is obliged to solve the puzzle. Mm-hmm. If you sing this from a modern score, the modern editor has solved the puzzle for you. You just read the notes that he's put in.
Sure.
But here you have, in some cases, 2, 3, 4 of these different signs. Every time you come back and sing it, you have to figure out how fast to sing. So you kind of come into this world of musical puzzles, which was so much part of the Renaissance aesthetic, right?
Sure. You know, I think I remember I was singing the tenor part, so that in this Mass he uses something like 12 different mensuration signs.
It's pretty much the full repertoire.
It's the full repertoire.
He's kind of showing off in a way, right?
Yeah. So sometimes when you see this sign, you say, okay, I need to count this note as 4 times what everybody else does. And sometimes it's 8 times or 12 times.
Or sometimes it's half.
Sometimes it's half or 1/4 also. So
maybe 1/3.
Or 1/3. There's also that.
I'm glad I didn't have to sing the tenor part.
It's really quite challenging.
Yeah.